And words containing the new letter, for example, pat the cat, like you want to pat the cat. For example, when you have, then you have sound button beneath each sound, or you have, there is no point in teaching if you can't apply them in real life situation. I is a tricky word. Then sit, I sit. I know it's been a while. Like seriously, I've got a lot on my plate and I just want to appeal to you to just bear with me. But today I am here to kind of give you a gist about what you need to do to assist your children in your daily teaching phonics routine. Despite teachers' efforts or parents' efforts on their children, we still have lots of children who are still struggling with reading. I mean, they're just memorizing words. You don't need to memorize them. You only need the right technique. So today, I'm suggesting a daily teaching phonics routine for you. That's what I'm here to present to you today. And I must tell you, this suggestion that I'm giving you can actually cut across other subject area. In this case, we'll be focusing on phonics. Phonics is that pillar that bridge between speech and print. So when you have speech, like what children are saying, like words reading, and print, like what you have in text, phonics, that is the pillar that is standing between both, or like the bridge that connect the speech and the text and the print together. So when we focus on discrete sounds, which is phonics, and their written representations, which is graphemes, we tend to empower learners to decode any words. Read my lips. We empower learners to decode any words rather than memorizing them or memorizing the shape and all of that. So when we're consistent with this method, we reduce cognitive loads on the children. It helps them to master the skill of decoding. It empowers our students to gain the tools to decode words independently. So the first one, which is the introduction. So when we talk about introduction, what are we trying to say? Is it that it's not a matter of good morning, ma, good morning, sir, you're welcome to primary 1B, God bless you and your family? That's not introduction. No. So introduction is where you state the goal of the lesson, the objective of the lesson. You're stating in phonics, you are stating the sounds that the children are going to learn that day that you're going to teach them. It is the goal of the lesson for the day. If you are teaching letter T, you tell the children, today we're learning the T sound, and by the end of this session, by the end of this lesson, you'll be able to read and write 3 words with T. Look at it. You're stating the objective, the goal of the lesson. When you tell your children or your students what they need to learn for the day, it gives them a target that today this is what we're going to achieve, this is what we're going to learn. You prepare them, you prepare their mind. It transforms the lesson from doing or just listening to actually achieving a goal. So that is the first stage. When you're teaching phonics, make sure we start with the introduction by stating the objective of the lesson. Now, after introduction goes to review or revise. That's like where you rapidly review what the children have learned in their previous class or in the previous lesson. For example, they have learned A, they've learned S, but today we're learning T. So before you start to teach T, you now go back to like previous lesson. Now let's practice oral blending A, S, because during previous class they already learned A and S, but today they are learning T. So at review stage, you have to practice the A and S with them. You have to make them revise it. So that is the second stage. Then they can also practice oral segmentation. If you want them to like segment as, so they break it into A, S. Can you spell as? A, S. So that is what revisit or and review or revise. That's what it's about. Then after revisit and revise, then you now go to the main cocoa of the day, like the main goal of the day, which is to teach the t sound. In upcoming video, I will break down this stage, in totality. But for now, let us just have a quick overview. Today, you are teaching the t sound. That's when you now introduce the new letter t. You teach the new letter, you teach how it sounds, then you teach them blending or segmentation with the letter that you have just introduced to them. At teaching stage, you have to teach the clear articulation of the sound, visual association. Then you can have children write this letter. They can write it in their note, they can write it in the air, they can write it on their table, they can write it on their palm. Lot of exercises that you can have children do to make sure they learn the letter T. Now you have taught the main lesson for the day. So what do you now do? You have them practice. They have to practice reading words with the new letter. They have to practice after. So after teach, you go to practice reading words with the new letter. They practice spelling words with the new letter. They practice VC and CVC words. When I say VC, it means vowel consonant words with the new letter. They practice CVC words with the new letter. So VC was like at, it. Then with CVC words like at, sat, bat. You have children practice VC and CVC words with the new letter. You can use sound button under each letter. When they press the first button, then they slide their finger to the end. They don't have to pause in between the sounds. So for example, when you have sound button beneath each sound, or you have a, t, and you have sound button beneath each sound or letter sound. Teaching blending or slide like sat, they don't have to pause in between letter. At, use sound button. So these are the sound button. Use the sound button under each letter, then teach the slide. Press the first button, then slide your finger and have them sound through without pause, without breaking between the sound. Then after introduction, you go review and revise, then teach, then practice, then application. There is no point in teaching if you can't apply them in real life situation. You can have children read a caption with the teacher or write a caption with the teacher. I mean, you need to support them all with their parents. You can use one or more high frequency words and words containing the new letter. For example, pat the cat. Like you want to pat the cat, pat, with the sound t, pat the. The is the tricky words. Then cat, cat, pat the cat. Then I sit. I is a tricky word. Then sit. I sit. Then a cat sat. A cat sat. A, like A or R, is the tricky words. Cat sat. Those are decodable words. So have them practice the sound that you have taught them in reading or writing in real life situation, because that's where it's going to be useful for them. Then at the end of the whole thing, after the introduction, review or revisit, teach, practice, apply, then you go to assess. If you teach in a classroom where by the end of the lesson or while the lesson is going on, you don't assess your children, that's not good enough. You need to change your ways. Even if it is 1 minute, you can just do a quick check-in to find out whether they can actually sound the letter T, or they can actually write it, or they can actually identify it in words, or they can actually read it in words or caption or sentences. So it's important at the end of your lesson, you do a 1 minute assessment. Can you point to T? Can you write it? Or can you write in? So assessment is the final one. So this is so important. When we include these 6 steps in our daily phonics teaching, I can assure you that your students will become better learner. They will enjoy your teaching because they will understand what you're trying to teach, and you too, you enjoy your session. So don't forget, the first one is introduction, where you introduce the goal and objective for the day. The second one is review or revisit, where you revise the previous lesson. The next one is teach, like the main goal for the day, where you teach the actual lesson for the day after revising. Then they practice what you have taught them, then they apply it into real life situation, then you do your assessment, and that's it. So check out for the next video, where I will be talking about the proper teaching itself, like the teach stage, which is this third step. All right, see you in the next video. Bye.